Okay, so hello and welcome to the CIDDL Research and Practice Brave series. The purpose of this series is to have conversation around the innovative use of technology in special education, early childhood related services, and leadership personnel preparation programs. Today we have Dr. Lorna Quandt, who is an assistant professor at the Gallaudet University, as our guest speaker to share with us her research and practices about using emerging technology such as virtual reality and mixed reality as new ways to teach and learn sign language. Welcome, Dr. Quandt.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm happy to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, so Dr. Quandt, so can you tell us a little bit about your research and practices on VR and MR and how it can be used in teaching sign language and what kind of issues are you trying to address?
Yeah, so I'm fortunate to work at Gallaudet University, which is the world's only university dedicated to deaf and hard of hearing students. So we have an incredible team at Gallaudet University in one of the labs that I work with, the Motion Light Lab. And with the Motion Light Lab and my own neuroscience research lab, the Action and Brain Lab, we are working on some amazing technology to develop new tools for learning sign language in virtual reality. So this is a very new concept, using immersive virtual reality to create a new way of interacting with a sign language. So our ultimate goal is to create a virtual reality game, essentially, that any person who has a virtual reality headset can go into our game. Our game is called SAIL, Signing Avatars and Immersive Learning, SAIL. And a person who's interested in learning sign language vocabulary in American Sign Language can use this game to learn sign language from a signing avatar. And all of this requires a ton of work and effort. So our pipeline starts with recording a fluent adult signer in a motion capture system. And we use that motion capture recording to create really, really high quality signing characters, like virtual 3D characters. And then in the virtual reality system, the user has a sort of back and forth exchange with this avatar that helps them to learn ASL vocabulary. So right now, the work is, we have a proof of concept. We can do this work,
Yes,
but it's not yet finished or released to the public because this is emerging technology and the challenges are so great. We're still at early stages, but we do have big dreams. So we hope that this type of access to learning sign language in virtual reality can make access to learning more available, more sort of attractive. It's very easy to play a game from the comfort of your own home. Whereas signing up for ASL level 1 class, that's probably the best option if someone can do that. But it requires more time, effort, and even money to sign up for a class that you must attend in person compared to a game that you can do in your own home. So we're really envisioning sort of a complementary way of learning ASL. Just something more fun and more more interactive and immersive. The power of VR is really important for our project.
Yeah, I really appreciate that you mentioned like we need to make learning more accessible and for students who are deaf and hard of hearing, right? Because like our center's mission is not only to improve faculty's capacity to use technology, and another focus of our center is to promote the framework of university design for learning. So this framework can guide the design of inclusive technology and learning environments and things like that to meet students' diverse learning needs. So I like your technologies, like which are still in process, but can address the issue of accessibility, right, for students who are deaf and hard of hearing, and also can improve their engagement level. So that's very important, and that's also aligned to the framework. So I really appreciate that you said that. So I think because this is a very important topic for deaf education and preparing for professionals who can better support students with disabilities and who are deaf and hard of hearing. It's very important, right? So my next question is, what opportunities do you think that your research and practices may have for improving like those programs that prepare for professionals, for teaching students who are deaf and hard of hearing?
I think that's a great question. And it speaks to the idea that the work we're doing right now could potentially have really, really broad impacts. And that's important to why we're doing this work. So right now, our focus is on building a system that adults who do not know sign language can use to learn introductory ASL. And how does that benefit deaf and hard of hearing students or deaf and hard of hearing people? Our perspective is that for deaf and hard of hearing people who use sign language as a primary form of communication, the more people know sign language in their world, the more accessible their world is. So the more that sign language is something that can be learned by any person with as few barriers as possible, the more accessible the world is to people who use sign language to communicate. Imagine if a deaf person can go into any coffee shop and order what they want in their sign language and be well understood for a simple transaction like that. We have that at Gallaudet University in several of the shops near the university. There are, deaf and hearing baristas who sign, and there's some stores that have iPads that help to sort of facilitate communication. But it speaks to the idea that the more people learn sign language, the more accessible the world is. And that, of course, relates to any professional who's working with deaf and hard of hearing people. They should be learning sign language, or they should already know sign language. And the more tools available to them, the better.
Yeah, I think that's a mission of the whole special education and professionals, right? Because we need to make the learning and like a broader sense, like whole world more accessible to anybody, for anybody. So I like what you just shared. So I read an article actually. So it was actually an earlier article in 2008. So it said like those innovative practices and practices of educating deaf and hard of hearing children was overlooked in general education settings, and sometimes it was kind of hard to implement those innovative practices. But it was like 10 years ago, I bet, like with technological advancement and all those like practices development, right? So things may have improved or evolved over time. But here's another question for you. So like what kind of like challenges you think that may still exist in teacher preparation programs or any field, like educating professionals for teaching those children?
One of the big challenges related to what we just talked about, the more people learn sign language, especially if you are working in a field where you're interacting with deaf folks, the more people learn sign language, the better for communication. However, it's hard to learn a new language. So
Yes.
honestly, it's a very simple answer, but I think that's really the true core answer is it is hard to tell people you must learn a new language in order to work with some of your students. So it's a challenge. Learning a new language is not always something that a person can take on, balancing with the priorities of other priorities they have in their life, but it's critical. So I think that's a core challenge. However, a lot of the challenges we face with our work are technical challenges. So we are working with these emerging technologies to create some really amazing tools. But they're still emerging, which means that a lot of the research is still siloed in the research lab and is not available to the general public yet. So I'm aware of many very, very exciting tools for helping people learn sign language, but many of them are still in the experimental phase. So one challenge is bridging that divide from what is being developed in the fields of engineering, computer science, the kind of work my team does, and actually bringing those products to people who could benefit from them. That's something which I hope we'll see more and more as the technology develops over the next few years. But there is a divide there.
Yeah, for sure. So as what you just said, like we have for sure we have still have some challenges in terms of like emergency of those technology, right? Because there are so much we need to learn and we need to research on. So for those people for those like faculty members who teach who are preparing those professionals who can serve students who are deaf and hard of hearing, so what resource or tools that you can recommend for them like either incorporating more technology in their own programs and how to improve their practices? So do you have any recommendations?
One fun recommendation is my amazing colleague, Melissa Mouse-Kuhn. She heads a team that has developed the ASL app. It's just called ASL app. And it's a freely available app on the Apple App Store. And it has thousands of small sign language lessons, and it's very interactive. So it's a fun tool that I would recommend to anyone. And that's important because it's a technological tool, but it's already developed. It's already there and ready for people to learn. So that's one recommendation for anyone in this field who doesn't already have that. Get it on your phone. In terms of thinking more broadly and becoming integrated into the field of this like emerging technology in the area, my colleague Melissa and I have recently founded this network called CREST Network, which stands for Cultivating Research and Equity in Sign-Related Technology. This network is open to anyone who's interested in the overlap between technology and sign language. So things like teaching and learning tools involving technology and sign language, and then other things more experimental, sort of in that overlap area. So anyone is welcome to join that network, and you can find out more on our website is crest-network.com. So that's open to everyone. And we have teachers in that network. We have deaf professionals, we have students, academics, researchers. So it's a sort of core place for anyone who is interested to collaborate and learn more.
Wow, those sound really amazing. So if you don't mind, probably I will share those resources on our website, and I will put links to those website or labs that you just mentioned.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Of
so
course.
thank you, Dr. Quandt, for sharing the research and the practices on application of those emerging technologies in sign language teaching. So we really appreciate your time and work. So hopefully we can have more opportunities to continue our conversation about amazing work you are doing. And so for more information about CIDDL research and practice briefs, other resources and teacher education related services, personnel preparation, please go to CIDDL.org. Don't forget to follow us on social media, subscribe to our channel, and leave us a message. Thank you. Thank you again, Dr. Quandt.
Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure.
Bye. See you next time.
See you.